Eskom management gave an update on the utilities operations, warning that generation capacity will be affected as it decommissions a number of old and outdated power stations. The result is continued load shedding. CEO Andre Director said if Eskom were to fail in fixing its many problems, it would pose a strategic risk to the country. Joining me now to understand this is independent energy expert Ted Bloom, as well as energy analyst Adil Nchabeleng. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you very much for your time tonight on the Newsroom Late Night.
Good evening. Thank you so much.
Ted, I'll start with you then. We all know that Eskom is too big to fail. In fact, if it does fail, it will pose some rather serious strategic risk to the country. Andre Director today outlining what is, of course, the system state of address, so to speak. Are you comfortable with the stability as far as our generating system is concerned currently, but also what is your view on the progress being made as far as the reliability maintenance program?
Okay, so I think the current system is still very, very vulnerable, and I think Eskom have admitted that. And they've now sort of changed their tune from promising no more load shedding within 12 months to now extending it to more than 2 years. As they grapple to try and sort out issues in the generation plant. The problem I have is that, they started off with big promises. They said they're going to get the original equipment manufacturers to fix up these things and issue new warranties. And I said that was a pipe dream, and it seems to me that's now evaporated into thin air. The other issue is that 11,800 megawatts of new power includes 6,000 megawatts of so-called renewable power. And the big problem is you're not comparing apples with apples. The 12,000 megawatts that Eskom wants to close is dispatchable coal power. As you know, when you switch on the lights, the power is there. They now want to put in 6,000 megawatts of renewable energy with wind and solar. And if the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining, or it's this time of the evening, you switch on the plug and there's no lights. So they're not comparing apples with apples. And that will be a total disaster for the South African economy.
Adil, Andre Director saying they're servicing at least 14% of their units currently undergoing maintenance. But even if they were to be maintained, a huge number of their power stations now have reached their average year of 39 years, which means that they are reaching their end of life or end of design life. And we will be in the next 10 years be losing, in terms of installed capacity, close to 12,000 megawatt of generation capacity. However, they are welcoming the initiative by government of that procurement of 11,000 megawatts. What is your analysis of that?
The overview is simple. One is, I think he hit it on the nail when he actually congratulated Deputy President Mabuza on his call for sort of interference to stop within the utility and give the management and the board opportunity to put into place the strategic plans that they can actually overhaul. But the direction of the current strategic plan is quite extremely flawed, because from an energy perspective, as Ted just explained, that you have what we call base load energy, which gives you 24/7 hours, 365 days a year. And then you have what is called variable renewable energy, which is actually something that will come in and available as and when available. So the current, comparison from a board perspective is extremely flawed. Your focus within a country in terms of strategic national importance should be on base load, which is your coal, the source that you have currently in the country, and ensure that it's now made to be clean coal. And the power plants that are actually said to be coming to an end of life should have been extended. These are not human beings that die. These are machinery that actually get refurbished and brand new components get added to it. And that life is extended over and over again. The plant is not getting lost, it's not getting destroyed. It's components that are failing that needs to be now refurbished. So there is no talk
for
of
South Africans, they want to know, is Eskom doing the right thing, right? For example, before 2010, it said that apparently they were warned that you're going to get into this trouble if you don't maintain the system. And that particular warning was ignored. Andre Director saying right now that there are a number of the power stations that are reaching their end of life. We are going to lose 12,000 megawatt of power in the next 10 years unless we do something about it. My question is, are they doing the right thing?
No. If you're losing 12,000 megawatts of baseload power and you're replacing it with 6,000 megawatts, which means you won't even have 2,000 megawatts of real energy available at any given time, which will be available. So which means you have lost almost 10,000 megawatts out of your current capacity. So it's a spell for disaster in the near future. The planning is completely flawed. It needs to be reevaluated. If you're losing baseload, you replace it with the baseload capacity with an availability feedstock that is currently available within the country. So yes, as much as the brief and the state of the utility quarterly sort of review was quite calm and really mellow, it does not spell any good news to people who understand the aspect of energy. We are looking at a disaster space whereby if we don't start building brand new power stations, we don't refurbish the current power stations that are reaching an end of life and get extended so that your baseload capacity is still available, we are going to have a crisis on our hands.
Ted, they are extending the life of Koberg by another 2 decades or so. What do you make of that move?
Okay, so I think I need to agree with my colleague Adil. Is that these people are talking nonsense when they say that the power station comes to its end of life. 39 years for a power station is actually not that old. In fact, if you go to SAA's fleet, until recently the average age of the aircraft, which everybody happily flew in, was over 40 years. So it depends on how you maintain the thing. If you do it properly, I know of power stations overseas that are over 100 years old and they're still running well. And today, Eskom acknowledged that its oldest power station, Komati, has had 104 trip-free days, which amongst the Eskom fleet is one of the best. And Komati is the oldest power station. So they contradict themselves when they say that the old power stations are unreliable. It's absolute nonsense. Koberg, yeah, I think technology-wise they can renew it. There are some security issues in terms of the foundation of Koberg. The foundation of Koberg, which is right at the coast, and there must be in-seeping of seawater, is a polyurethane or polypropylene type of base to shave it away from earthquakes. And that base, I don't know if anybody's been down there to check if that stuff hasn't deteriorated over the last 40-odd years. And if it has, then trying to renew the thing is actually futile.
Andre Director trying to instill some kind of confidence in the country, saying the design defects at Mudup, for example, in the current financial year will be sorted out, and they're looking at Kusile in the next financial year. Do you believe what he's saying? Have they done the right thing? Is it going to cost us more?
Well, I've spoken to energy technicians, so I'm a pen pusher. And a lot of other so-called experts are pen pushers. You need to speak to people who actually have on-the-ground experience. And the information I'm getting from on-the-ground experience is that Eskom is taking shortcuts. There's a major design flaw. They've admitted the design flaws in both Mudup and Kusile, which is something that the old Eskom fleet policy would have avoided, because the old policy was don't build in the same problem in a whole fleet. You choose new suppliers every time you build a new power station. This was not done with the corruption and capture of Eskom in 2008. So it's much earlier than what Mr. Zondo's investigating. And I believe that, from what I'm told, that the inherent design flaws are being shortcut solutions being implemented now. And we will see the evidence of that in the near future. I believe that there's filtration issues, there's milling issues, there's the metallurgical combustion of the coal is very volatile, and where previously it was burning too high, there's a good chance now that it's going to be burning too low, and the lower components haven't been made to withstand the heat inside a furnace.
Now, Adel, before I let you go, very briefly, what do you make of Eskom saying, well, yes, expedite the process of procurement, however, we want to partner and collaborate, particularly because there are commercial issues as well as some issues in terms of procurement process?
Look, I think Eskom's procurement has been problematic for too many years. the evergreen coal contract that has not allowed black people access into the coal sector supply, the issue of the engineering part of it, the technical, the construction, the electronics components. I mean, the whole thing needs to be overhauled. And it has to look at it as South African. If we're talking about reindustrialization, in my view, Eskom should have been the platform for which South Africa's reindustrialization, innovation, technology, you're talking about transformation, should be the beacon of it. And right now, we're not seeing that beacon. Instead, it's still the same old club. It's still the same old top 5 players in every aspect of the value chain that are still dominating the space. Black players are not represented, and black players are actually strategically excluded from the value chain of what Eskom is. And yet we are all taxpayers, and we are all paying equally within the country in terms of our contribution to the tax revenue. So it's still an unfair basis that Eskom is still used to enrich the previously and historically advantaged, individuals and organizations at the expense of the majority of black people that are excluded.
Ted and Adil, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us tonight here on the Newsfeed Late Night.